The Shark Deck.
John Mulaney announced a new tour. You got to get your tickets today. I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. An artist pre-sale this morning, 10 a.m. if you're not part of that. Friday, 10 a.m., Ticketmaster.com. Mulaney has titled the tour, John Mulaney in Concert. It kicks off in Kingston, New York, November 2nd. Troy, Toledo, Columbus, Columbia, South Carolina, Athens, Macon, Savannah, Hanover, Maryland, Reading, and Norfolk. State College, Biloxi, New Orleans, Tampa, Hollywood, Florida, Rosemont, Illinois, Phoenix on New Year's Eve. Chevy Chase is on Marc Maron's podcast this week. I had that on the agenda to tell you about. I saw that and I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting. I listened to Maron's pre-interview warning about how the interview was going to go. I didn't get to listen to the whole podcast yet, but Variety did. And on it, Chevy Chase claimed that Community, quote, not funny enough for me. Really? Come on, man. Chevy told Maron, I honestly felt the show wasn't funny enough for me. Ultimately, I felt a little bit constrained. Everybody had their bits, and I thought they were all good. It just wasn't hard-hitting enough for me. I didn't mind the character. I felt happier being alone. I just didn't want to be surrounded by that table every day with those people. It was too much. Yeah, then that's kind of what the show was. The cast sitting around a table. If you didn't want to do that, I get it. Variety reminds us that cast members such as Donald Glover has spoken out in the past about Chase's problematic set behavior. Chase said on the podcast he has no ill will against Dan Harmon for firing him. Chase said, I have no idea if we're okay. I've never been not okay. He's kind of a pisser. He's angry. He called and said he was sorry. I love him now. Chase was asked if he's difficult to work with and said, I don't think people really felt that way. I don't know what my reputation was among people. I always assumed I was okay. Last year, Chevy told CBS Sunday Morning that he doesn't give a crap about headlines. And as for the suggestions that he's problematic on set, I guess you'd have to ask them. Apparently somebody at Variety doesn't love Chevy. They went down the whole thing. They dusted off. Back in 2018, Pete Davidson called Chase an effing douchebag after Chase criticized the current SNL cast. At that time, Pete Davidson added, F Chevy Chase, he's just a genuinely bad racist person and I don't like him. The Indian Express took a look at Trevor Noah's tour of India. This is a different show than the one I told you about yesterday. This is the third day of the first leg of the India tour. And the Indian Express said Trevor packed the stadium with the ease of a master conductor with his orchestra. There were laughs galore, and the crowd work was perhaps the highlight of the nearly 90-minute show. Trevor had clearly done his homework with bits about Delhi that seemed to resonate with the audience. In his signature style, Trevor donned accents, particularly Indian ones, to make fun of the British. There was a crowd-pleasing reference to Pakistan, which of course will always get a laugh. Then the old tropes about traffic in India, the chaos and the beauty, and the pandering to the presumed nationalism of the audience. But a little bit of a critique. They wrote, delve a little deeper into, quote, arranged marriage, unquote, or why love marriage is an act of rebellion. Both subjects of throwaway one-liners. And you have that writer, Trevor, the comedian who could rip apart these small petty brutalities that unequal structures force us to participate in. But they added, it's also unfair to expect Trevor Noah to risk the money and effort put in by sponsors to court controversy. There was that hope because, unlike comedians from more privileged geographies, he is, quote, one of us, unquote, an outsider who fulfilled the dream of making it in the holiest of holies. He could point out the things wrong here because it wouldn't be a white person talking down to us third world types. As it turns out, no one knew the aspirations of the Delhi audience better than most. His opening act, Will Sylvans, had a good 15-minute set. At one point, Will talked about his father's Haitian's origins, saying there's not much difference between that country and its people and us. There was an uncomfortable silence in the theater. The well-heeled audience, keen to laugh at Trump without looking at our own leaders, did not want to be confronted by the fact that we are not American, or British, or even all that rich. We wanted to laugh at the jokes that hurt no one. We're okay with the chaos of India, but not its poverty. With the jokes about unruly crowds, but not about those that turn into mobs. Very interesting stuff from the Indian Express. From globalnews.com, remember I told you a guy was arrested at a Russell Peters outdoor show not too long ago? Well, Global News tells us the man accused in that incident has been arrested again. Now, this part, my spidey sense is like, Vancouver police said the man was taken into custody for allegedly jaywalking. At that time, he was found to be in possession of a knife. His release order from the Russell Peters incident said that he had to abide by 6 conditions, including not possessing any knives. Jaywalking, and they happen to catch this guy? I don't know. Yeah, something else going on here? I don't know. From the Star Tribune, Minneapolis music venue and eatery Ice House has issued an apology They caught some guff because they canceled a Latinx community dance party last minute to instead host a corporate booking. All right, John, why are you talking about this? The corporate booking was the official after party for Dave Chappelle. Apparently, Dave Chappelle paid more than the other party. The Ice House put out a statement on social media and said, "We hear you," and particularly understand the optics of having done this during Latinx Heritage Month. Variety wrote about Trae Crowder and Corey Ryan Forrester. You may know them from working with Drew Morgan on the Well-Read comedy tour and podcast, along with the book The Liberal Redneck Manifesto. Well, this week, Crowder and Forrester have a new book. It's called Round Here and Over Yonder, a front porch travel guide by two progressive hillbillies. Parentheses, yes, that's a thing. There's an audiobook, but they stress that the physical copy is, in Crowder's words, a great toilet book, because it's essays and such, and you can pick it up and put it down. You can skip ahead or do whatever you want. It's easy to read in trips to the toilet. I forgot about the concept of bathroom books, right? That was a thing. Sure, absolutely. I used to have like Letterman's top 10 list. You'd grab it, go in, do your thing, read a couple things, maybe stay a little longer because you're reading the book. Now we have phones, right? Yes? As guided by the pair, you'll get travel tips on finding the best spots in each city for food and fun, as well as good-natured observations about each place visited. Forrester says making fun of something and hating it are not mutually exclusive. I could sit here and make fun of Dave & Buster's for 2 hours, but at the end of the day, there's not many places better to watch a football game. Like there were 10 Fast and the Furious movies for a reason. Trae Crowder was asked about the tour of the UK, and did they get the references? Trae said, who cares if they get the reference points? They won't even understand the words I'm saying. But it went well. I know that a big part of my comedy hinges on the crowd knowing this accent is considered to be dumb-sounding. I asked our tour guide if that came across, and he said, oh yeah, I think they get that. I think pretty much everyone on planet Earth knows that. Forrester said, we do play a little better when we travel. For instance, when we do shows in the South, we're lucky enough that people who come to our shows generally know who we are. It's not a bunch of random people. On the West Coast, I probably make more fun of coastal elites. It's like the opposite of pandering. Let's see who's at JFL Toronto tonight, 7 o'clock. Ian Edwards, Napoleon Dynamite Live. Clicks on it, finds out more. The beloved indie classic Napoleon Dynamite was made almost 20 years ago, blah, blah, blah. The unique evening includes a full screening of the movie, followed by a lively, freewheeling, moderated discussion with cast members, so right? Robbie Hoffman's Homecoming at 7, River Butcher at 7, Chris Redd at 7. 8 o'clock, Second City, also the Comedy Battle Royale. Comics draw topics they have to joke about together. The audience decides who has the quickest wit, the deepest catalog of jokes, and who gets the championship belt. All right, that's definitely going to be a contender. Flamers, Drag Queens Try Hot Ones. Martina Urbano, also at 8, 8:30, Best of Absolute Comedy. 9 o'clock shows, Julie Kim, Sydney Washington, Sam Morrison, Catherine Cohen. 10 o'clock, Double Threat, Nigel Grinstead and Adonis Charlie. 10:30, Hot Babe Energy with Jenny Olsen. Hot Babe Energy is the comedy show by hot babes for hot babes, showcasing the hottest women in LGBTQ comics. Channeling confidence, body positivity, and sex positivity, this show will be hot, hot, hot. 11 o'clock, Jesus Trejo, Loki, Graham K., and Chris Redd. And then Midnight Madness at 11:30. All right, now I know there's a late Chris Redd show. That's going to make my early night decision a little easier. Let's see River Butcher at 7. 8 o'clock, let's do that Comedy Battle Royale. 9 o'clock, let's do Catherine Cohen, and then Chris Redd at 11. We'll grab a beer in the 10 o'clock hour or something like that. I'm cheating a little bit because, sometimes you have to travel from place to place, but we're not actually there, are we? So we can use instantaneous travel and just play Fantasy Comedy Festival. And that's your comedy news for today. Hey, have you told a friend about the show yet? Or you're like, hey, man, did you hear about Trevor Noah's show in India? And they're going to be like, what are you talking about? Yeah, there's this guy. He hosts a podcast, and every day, for some reason, he talks about Trevor Noah touring India. I don't get it either, but I like the guy. Do something like that. Follow the show for free on Apple, Spotify, all that. See you tomorrow.